Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Last Call Fantasy Football Podcast here on May 25th. I can't believe May is already almost done, but that means we're just getting that much closer to kickoff in September. And tonight, I am very happy to be joined by my co-host, Bobby Briscoe. Bobby, how are you doing tonight? Uh-oh.
Okay, so really cold one here and talk a little football, and this is going to be great.
Perfect. And we are joined by a special guest, another member of our fantasy league who had to hop on and defend his draft strategy and his team after Eric Inward bashed him so badly last week. So I'm very happy to welcome Chris Boomhauer. Chris, how are we doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I mean, with you being this your first time on the pod, do you want to give any background on your football experience, fantasy football experience?
Sure, yeah. I think I started playing fantasy football in like 2007. I got invited from like a bunch of random guys in high school. Had no idea what I was doing. I think like my big winner that year was Austin Collie, which was like the dark horse. And yeah, I've been playing ever since. Played Dynasty, IDP, PPR, tight end premium, pretty much everything. Yeah.
Have you won in our keeper league?
I think I won in 2010, maybe,
Okay.
when I had like Arian Foster and
Okay.
Ray Rice.
Yeah,
Those were my two big keepers.
those are throwbacks. Yeah, no, I was pretty sure you had secured yourself a championship, whereas I'm going into year 16 or whatever we're in now, and I'm lucky to make the playoffs half the time. That's great. So awesome episode here for everybody. We're going to quickly touch on some recent news, but then really I just want to open it up. I know that I said we were going to do no more talking about our league and our players, but I lied. We're going to give Bobby and Chris here a chance to do their give their 2 cents on their teams. And then we're also going to have a pretty insightful conversation, I hope, at the end of it, where we'll talk about how the NFL has shifted is seemingly to more of these two tight end, three tight end sets, and what that means for our fantasy drafts and if drafters are adjusting to that. So we'll get into that. But before we do, let's get it cracking, everybody. Cheers.
That wasn't as good as a pop today. I was disappointed there.
I'm happy
The
you
fast.
like my headphone cancels the crack of the beer. So I'm happy that yours catches it pretty well there, buddy. Okay, so the quick piece of news that we'll touch on is Matthew Stafford signing a one-year extension. I think we all knew this was coming. He's obviously coming off an MVP season, going into his year 38, age 38 season, but I mean, in terms of a guy who's made a lot of money playing football, he's got to be up there on the list now. I mean, I think he was, if he wasn't the last quarterback who was able to cash in on those signing bonuses back when you're in the NFL draft, that he was the second last one. And I remember he as a rookie was getting like a $68 million signing bonus for being the number one overall pick that year. Like it was something obscene, but he's done very well for himself. I'm sure he'll be happy to tell
So
us.
I was curious about you saying that, and I just looked it up. This contract will push him into the alt. This will put him up to 408 million in career earnings.
Wow.
So, oof,
And you
oof
said
a
that
doofa.
that's putting him into the lead.
Yeah, so that's going to take him up over, I think, at we're looking. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is sitting shy of 400 million, and then behind him, some pretty good company to be in for Mr. Stafford.
Right on. And I know we broke this news last week, but I wanted to get your thoughts, Boom, because I know you're a Steelers fan. How are you feeling about this Aaron Rodgers signing? Are we excited? Luke Toes, what are we feeling?
I was kind of expecting it. I mean, like, it seems like all the coaches that they brought in were to entice Aaron back for a year. Um, I mean, I don't know. I think the best case is like mediocrity. I don't think they're going to go like, you know, get like over 12 wins, for example. That being said, like, certainly a better receiving core, certainly a better running back room. I think they improved the O line in a couple of positions. He has a little chemistry with the receivers. So, like, I'm expecting a better, maybe not like better outcome, but a more cohesive, like, football to watch on TV, which will be nice.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly last year with a lot of it being short game and just dump it off to Kenneth Gainwell. If Kenneth Gainwell is your leading receiver on the Steelers, it's a hard look. But I guess do you think McCarthy can like draw some of this old Aaron Rodgers out of him, because he was very conservative last year?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Like, the other, you know, underlying benefit is he's mentoring these young guys, right? They have like, I think they spent a fifth rounder on Will Howard last year, might have been a sixth rounder, and then the third round with Drew Aller this year. So it's like, I don't think either of those guys are ready to step into a game and like carry the team towards a victory. But like, you saw Aaron mentor Jordan Love for all those years, and I'm just hoping that he can kind of like pass along some knowledge
Yeah.
and be a bit of like a player coach to these younger guys, and hopefully not just waste those 2 draft picks.
Well, I think the one thing to be said is that he did sign 2 weeks earlier than this year than he did last year. So maybe those extra weeks will get him on the same page as his receivers and start working with the line a little bit.
Hopefully, and I know he's been going to the voluntary OTAs and stuff, which is a good sign. Last year, he kind of like sat out for a lot of that, so
Yep.
Seems like he's coming around.
Good. Well, I'm happy you're optimistic, because it's. I think it seems like a very like a divisive subject. Like, should they have rolled with a Will Howard? I think Drew Aller is especially projecty, but you could have rolled with Will Howard and see what you have with him, because even if he does awful, I think that would be a good thing in a good quarterback class that we assume is coming up in 2027.
Yeah, I mean, just one more thing on the topic, I guess. I think that anytime teams draft quarterbacks, it seems like a total dice roll. You see guys like Brock Purdy come out in the last round. You see other guys like who are drafted in the first round, they never pan out. You see like Malik Willis, who like was drafted very early, didn't pan out for a few years. Now he's like back on top. So like, even in a strong quarterback class next year, you don't always want to put all your eggs in that basket,
No,
because you never really know how it's going to shake out.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I think I forget what the stat is, but it really is like a 50-50 shot in the first round that any of those players taken in the first round end up getting their fifth-year option picked up. So it's a tough business we're in, trying to identify these difference makers at the quarterback position, especially. Okay, so without further ado, like, let's just get into it. Bobby, I'm gonna let you go first, because you've been busy in our worksheet here, divvying up your rankings and kind of your thoughts. So where would you like to start? And just let me know if you want me to throw the draft, our finished draft
maybe
up.
throw the draft up. I'll start there and just
Sure.
kind of talk about how things go. I kind of want to respond a little bit. You didn't talk about the last podcast. A little bit. Kind of some things with my draft, and then I'll get into my rankings, I suppose.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm trying to pull up and also see it. Here we go. I think I'm by and large am fairly happy with how my draft went. But there are definitely some things that, in retrospect, I wish I had maybe done a little bit differently. We kind of broke things down live that one week while the draft was still ongoing. And the more I think about it, I'm less happy with that, kind of run of running back kind of in rounds 6, 8, and 9. I wish I'd gone a little bit of a different direction in there. It is. And I think I ended up with some good, but I wish I had taken a little bit more of a swing in some The other
So
thing is,
I can kind of help a little bit here, Bobby. Like, the same questions I asked Inward last week. Like, which pick do you feel like was your best value pick in this draft?
oh, you kind of cut out on there a little bit.
I know Melissa's doing her thing. Can you hear me now? Okay.
I can hear you, Paul.
Yeah, I think it might be a Bobby thing, or it's the meeting not.
Actually, you're kind of crapping out on me here too.
Okay.
If we can pause for a second, I'm just gonna turn back. So
Okay.
you're gonna
Yep.
lose me for a second here.
Yeah. Yep. So maybe we'll start with Boom then. All right. So how are we feeling, Chris? When we take a look back at this draft, you I mean, I posted it from the Keep Trade Cut website, the rankings, and Keep Trade Cut had a very high opinion of you in your draft. So, where would you like to start with your draft?
Yeah, I mean, like generally, my strategy was go for like young guys. I think that's like you and Eric were talking about that last week. Um, Definitely, probably have one of the younger teams off the board. Um, so I really was looking for guys who had like proven before that they were able to do it, and maybe had like downturn years, or guys that like have a path to being real impact players. So like, I mean, first pick off the board was JSN. That was like mainly for from ADP. I wasn't like going out looking for him specifically, but I'm certainly happy I got him. Especially like Seattle's offense is very strong. Pass forward, he like put up. I don't know if they were record numbers last year, but it certainly seems like he won people their leagues last year.
He was on pace.
I think Jaden Daniels was kind of like not one that typically I don't draft QBs that early, but given it is a dynasty league and he's young, I figured I wanted kind of like a top tier quarterback who can like.
Love that player. Absolutely love that player. Love that pick. He
But
won
again,
me.
like
He won me this league a couple seasons ago. So
again, hoping it's a bounce back though. So like between Brian Thomas, even like DK Metcalf, all had like very down years last year. But doing some dice rolls and hoping that with the dynasty format, like time kind of heals all woes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, okay. So, which pick do you feel like you're the most skeptical about when it comes to your own draft here?
um, I mean the tail side of that coin is all of those players might not pan out. So I mean, like, I spent a second round pick on Omarion Hampton, and like, there's certainly a chance that that's just a straight up committee backfield, and he's like irrelevant, or like not irrelevant, but not like, the 18th guy off the board kind of potential. And then the same is true for Brian Thomas, right? Like, he that coaching staff is still there. That seems like they're just brutal for fantasy. And like they have a really deep wide receiver room, pretty talented tight ends. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to take a step up this year into like a new tier. But there's a lot of mouths to feed there in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm especially put off by the news of Travis Hunter still getting wide receiver reps going into this coming season. So I'm not sure how much I believe it. I still think, and I think what they're eventually going to land on is that he should be a corner first, and then maybe there's a subset of packages that you can put him in at wide receiver. But I think with Jacksonville specifically, and I think this might be in your favor, Boom, is that they drafted two tight ends on top of the great tight end that they have there in Brenton Strange, I think his name is, and they might be leaning into these 2 and 3 tight end sets a little bit more to get the run game going. And if they do that, I think Brian Thomas is the receiver that's going to stay on the field as that X receiver because he can beat press man coverage. He can line up on the outside and do that pretty well. So of these other receivers they have, like they're all kind of interchangeable. Brian Thomas Jr. is kind of the only guy who can do something different when it comes to these heavier sets. So maybe that will pan out for you. I think that is the light at the end of the tunnel there.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Also, like, the one of the biggest indicators of like potential success is previous success, and he finished like what, the wide receiver 2 in his rookie year, the wide
Four,
receiver
four, yeah.
4. So like, I mean, even if he's top 10, I got him in the 4th round. That's kind of a steal for me.
Well, fifth round, yeah. No, I think
Oh yeah.
that's good value for that for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Um, Let me ask you about Fannin because in the first 6 rounds, I kind of when I look at breaking down people's drafts, I kind of like looking at the first 4 to 5 rounds and then the next 4 to 5 rounds because that's really the starters of your team. And you went Jaden Daniels in the 3rd round and Fannin in the 6th. So getting those onesies and paying pretty good draft capital to get them. How confident are you with Harold Fannin um, being that tight end and being a force for you in this dynasty league and hopefully for the long term?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, like, he's young, so there's upside. The downside is last year may have been an anomaly because there were so few receiving options in Cleveland. Um, Now they have, Denzel Boston. They have
Casey,
Casey Concept. Yeah, like
yep,
all these
Exception.
kind of young kind of receiving options. So like he's probably going to get less work. That being said, coming out of college, he was touted as like just an athletic freak, and he seems like a pretty hard worker. So I think he will carve out a little bit of room for himself. The thing that made me like jump on him. So originally I was actually targeting Tucker Kraft there, but he got picked like directly before me, I believe.
I
bye,
traded
Bobby.
into that spot because I knew I needed to trade to there to get Tucker Kraft, and I wanted him. So yeah,
Yeah, but after that, like, it really falls off. I mean, the next guys off the board were Kyle Pitts and Sam Laporta, I think, um, both of which are good tight ends. But uh, you know, I feel like the young top end tight end talent for dynasty leagues will serve for many years, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think you should be confident there too because the absence of David Njoku now makes him the one tight end I think you want to have in Cleveland. They also drafted some tight ends, but they clearly drafted them to be blocking types. So I think he's going to be a good option for you. I think if you look at Todd Monken now in Cleveland, think about how he weaponized Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews was like a shell of himself last season. I think you could like Harold Fannin kind of feasted on like short routes last year and then relied on Yak to be able to get to his totals. I think you could see a smattering of some deeper air yard targets, which will help boost his fantasy value as well. So um, all he's ever done is produce at the college level, and then his first year as a rookie in the NFL. So I think you're in the right place to be able to get him as the last of those like difference making tight ends. And it ended up being a position I punted on, but kind of put myself in that corner to begin with. So I
Who who's the quarterback there in Cleveland now? Is that still like up for grabs between Shador and?
so news is that it's going to be Deshaun Watson who's going to get the first crack at it. I think they need to start accruing some years on his contract so they can cut him eventually.
yeah,
And
just to get him out of there.
so I think between if you can get 70% of Deshaun Watson playing competent quarterback play, I think that's an upgrade over last year where Shadur Sanders, in a bad situation, of course, it. I think Shadur Sanders did what he could, but his tendencies that made him slip in the draft, I think, really started to show up. He was drifting, you know, putting the ball in harm's way. I think we'll see how this offensive line comes together, but it's going to be shaky ground, I think, regardless who's behind center. Um, but
Sanders is going to figure it out. That's why I picked him in the 29th round.
oh, there you go. Yes. So it'll be a competition between the two of them. Okay. So you know what? I'm not going to throw up our rankings here, but did you want to talk through your rankings, Boom? Because you did put the work in here to rank everybody in our dynasty league as well.
Sure, yeah. I'll just kind of go the top couple, bottom couple. I don't think I need to go through all of them. And like, I took this mainly off of an external site and then reviewed the teams to agree with it or not. So the suggestion from that site, which I agree with, was the team, and I don't know all the managers' names yet in this league because I'm new. Is the team Run CMC? Um, Going over their team, they got Bo Nix, they got Ashton Genty, who's amazing, Josh Jacobs, who's amazing, Luther Burden, who's supposed to be a stud, Tate, who's a rookie receiver coming into the league hot, and then it like kind of falls off in my opinion. So like Godwin hoping for a bounce back year. Mike Evans is gone, but you never know kind of how that's going to shake out, especially with Buka. Um, Couple rookie tight ends, I believe, in Sadiq and Stowers. One of them will likely pan out, but again, pretty big dice roll. And then the flex, right now they have Bill, McCroskey Merritt, and Tyrone Tracy, both of which are like maybe guys that I wouldn't feel super confident starting week in and week out.
Yeah.
And then when you look to the bench, there's some like fair names here. Sampson, who's backing up Judkins, I think. McGowan is like a dice roll. I think that was actually a free agent pickup outside of the draft, but I've been reading a little bit about him. Kamara, that might be a little bit of a sleeper if he still gets carries. Who knows? I like Manor. I like him generally, but it seems like now Tennessee is kind of flush with receiving options, and he's probably not one of the top three guys.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I put them kind of last in my rankings just because like it's going to take a little bit of luck to get like a starting lineup.
Well, Inward and I touched on this last week, I believe, because we agree with you guys. He's way down there in our rankings simply because a couple things. I think taking Carnell Tate where he did, I can understand maybe you're getting excited about the rookies. He's drafted number 4 overall. He just hasn't done it in the NFL, and he skipped out on guys like Drake London, George Pickens, like all these guys over the next 2 rounds, I probably would have taken over Carnell Tate. And then on top of that, he ended up trading out of kind of the middle of the draft, which is where you kind of need to start filling out your roster and filling out those starting spots. So he's flush with draft picks, but
Yeah,
but
he could
dynasty draft
be
picks
a
are
very exciting team in 5 years,
right.
the way he's set himself up, but he's not going to be this year
Certainly
or
not.
for the next couple of years.
And that's something I'm confused by because I can understand that you love to draft and you love having all these draft picks, but everybody had a fair chance here to create a competitive roster. That was kind of the whole point is everybody's starting fresh here, and he's he's basically already punting on this season for next season, I
Mm.
guess. So yeah, I don't disagree with that. Anything else in these rankings, Boom, you want to touch on?
Um, I guess like the next up there, I have all about that Brown as like the second kind of worst pick. I'm just going to pull up that team here to see their roster. Jackson Dart, Taylor, Brown. So one guy that like I'm not that big on is Chase Brown. I know he's done it in the past. He's looked pretty good a couple of years running, but like for whatever reason, I just can't get over the hump of like successful Cincinnati running back. I mean, I'm probably going to get burned in saying that, especially given its PPR. But we'll see how that shakes out. AJ Brown, who knows what team he's even going to play on next year? Like, might be the Eagles, most likely the Patriots. It sounds like TBD. Um, and I think it just gets like kind of old quick with guys like Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, Dak Prescott, even Baker Mayfield. So either very competitive this year and then falls off a cliff, or like, maybe a bit of a gap there.
Yeah, I mean, this is my wife's team, and she I thought did a good job through that, like filling out her starters. Like I think her starters can go toe to toe with anybody this season. But then to your point, I do see your point in terms of the age cliff hitting some of these players. Um, so it could be an issue in a season or two. I was very wary about Chase Brown myself. I'm surprised he fell this far to the back end of the third round though, because he, to your point, has been a top 10 running back the last 2 years and 3 years, maybe I should say. And I know he's going into the last year of his rookie deal, but I was concerned that he was going to get replaced in the draft, or he was like they would have a contingency plan. They would bring some competition in, and they just left it alone. So, especially this season, I think Chase Brown is another, uh, green lights all go for this season, and then we'll have to see how they want to tackle his contract at the end of it. But I can see your point there in terms of lack of depth. Again, my I told Melissa after the fact, I'm like, this is your chance to make your team, really good. Let's like don't do it's not like you're taking over an orphan team like you had to last time. You can make it good. And she decided to also, excuse me, draft a number of defensive players, which is kind of a death knell to some teams that don't end up getting the depth that they need to be competitive in the long term.
Mhm.
Yeah, the flip side is like, by all means, AJ Brown, if he ends up in New England, he could be like a top five guy potentially if Drake May shows up again. And like, it doesn't seem like Chicago's willing to give up the backfield to Monunga yet. Derrick Henry still got some years in him, so like, definitely could make a run at it this year for sure.
Absolutely. And then I'll let you pick one more if you'd like. Boom. Anything else from the rankings, your draft, anything you want to talk about?
Um, Sure. I mean, like the number one team I had in my rankings was Allen or nothing.
Yep.
And let me pull that one up so I can see.
Right there in lockstep with
Um,
Imred and I.
yeah, so like Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Nico Collins. That's like probably the best starting wide receivers of I would assume anybody in the league. Um, Chuba Hubbard, like Rico's gone now, so really he's pretty much locked up the backfield there in Carolina, pending that rookie who was injured 2 years running. I forget his name even.
Jonathan Brooks.
Um, yeah, and then Travis Hunter being able to play like slot him in the DB, but get wide receiver points for him is like kind of the IDP cheat code.
Could
So I think
absolutely be
that's
the
like
cheat code.
certainly a dark horse to watch in the league for sure.
I
Yeah.
love his tight end choice in Ferguson as well. Ferguson, just the safety net, and I have a good bounce back here this year too. So
I mean, he really did a good job of sitting tight and letting the value kind of come to him, where he's getting an Alec Pierce who's going to be the wide receiver one in Indianapolis. He basically got Pat Mahomes in almost the 10th round here. So, assuming Pat Mahomes bounces back to some sort of semblance of himself, and people forget Pat Mahomes was like a top 3 quarterback last season before he got hurt. He was doing a lot more scrambling. He was very active in like rushing and getting some rushing scores as well. So, I don't know if that's
I
going to
mean,
come back, but
he's even got like Diggs, Debo Samuel, and Xavier Worthy. Now that Rashi Rice is like, who knows what's going on there? He's going to jail, and he's going to have to rehab this like knee surgery cleanup that he's had done. So like, there's a lot of value there deep too. And I'm kind of big on Coleman, still Keon Coleman. I know a lot of like Buffalo fans have kind of written him off as like a bust, but like he's 23 years old. He's like still got a lot of potential.
I would just love to see them use Keon Coleman in a better way. Like, putting him out there to be an X receiver is never what he was meant to be. I hope they can figure out a way to get him more involved, like maybe move him around the formation a bit, get him off the ball, get him in motion, put him in the slot, do that kind of thing, because I think he'd really excel in that. Like, asking him to beat man coverage outside is just not his shtick right now.
Especially now they
Um,
have DJ Moore.
Especially now they have DJ Moore, which, to your point, maybe that does open things up because DJ Moore can be that X and he can then start to move around. Excellent. So that's great, man. Appreciate your insight and your opinion on all this. I think you did a great job drafting, and I can't wait for our matchup later in the season. Bobby, I'm going to throw it over to you now. You've got
Okay.
a bunch of colors and a bunch of names here. I'm going to let you
Yeah,
talk. I'll
yeah.
let you talk through it, and just if you need a question thrown your way, I'm happy to throw a question.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna just actually kind of get rid of the second column of colors here because it actually looks to be fairly in line with what was talking about. There's maybe one or two differences around here, but so that's Dynasty rankings. And then the kind of factor that I wanted to talk about a little bit more that hasn't really come up is more what my first column is, which is this year rankings.
Okay,
Who's set up and well positioned to win out of the gate? Because I think that's something to kind of weigh and to weigh heavily. Because
definitely.
yes, it is Dynasty, and yes, we're in this for a long haul, but I tend to value the present a lot more highly than the future because the future is the future. That's the future's problem. There's rookie drafts, there's trades, there's you can figure the future out. Whereas the present is the present, and the team that you have this year is the team that you're trying to win with. So that's why I'm very low on strategies like run CMC had, where punting down to the future. Who knows what those picks are going to be? Whereas
Right.
right now we have a chance to pick a team to try and win. So I didn't sort these. I'm not sure if you have the colors up on
I do.
the
Yep.
column up on your screen. Don't pay attention to the order here. I didn't order them specifically. I just kind of made tiers.
Okay.
So my tiers going into this year, I would say Paul, yourself, myself, and Darling are teams that I quite like that have a shot to, I think, be in the high end of things this year and make a run for a ship out of the gate. Paul, I especially like your team, mainly on the back of Josh. He is the best quarterback, and having the best quarterback gives you a pretty awfully good shot to win. My kind of next tier of teams, these are teams, there's a lot that I like in them. They may be kind of punted on the future a little bit themselves in a position to win, whereas I think this top tier still has some good future going on in it as well. But Diabad, Alan Cat, Grey Goose, Jack, I think all did pretty decent jobs of setting themselves up this year to win. Jack, for instance, I think he took too many defensive players in the mid part of the draft, but he did take good defensive players. He's probably going to get points from those players, and that's something that is going to help him this year.
Hmm.
And he did take a fairly, I mean, Rice aside, that's
I
a
think
bit of an issue, but
that's going to hurt. I think short term and
absolutely
long
going to hurt. But he
term.
did draft, at least with the information, a fairly competitive lineup.
Yeah.
And then this next tier down at the bottom. So, Boom, I'm putting you into this category. Sorry to say, these are teams that I like their upside. I think that they, present and definitely well for the future. My critique of you, Boom, you kind of already touched on it, but it's relying on Daniels to have a bounce back. All these bounce, I think, is something they've proven it can bounce back. You can't count on them bouncing back. So, like, I love your Zach Charbonnet pick, for instance. I think that's a really great pick, and it could put you in a really good position if he comes back and is what we thought Zach Charbonnet would be. But he's not currently that, right?
Yeah, my running back strategy there was like try to pick up all of Seattle's backfield with Charbonnet and Price, and try to pick up all of the Chargers' backfield with Hampton and Fidel. I missed Keaton Mitch or who did they get from Baltimore? They got another guy who's gonna like
Keaton Mitchell.
yeah, and I'm kind of like bummed I missed him. He was like teed up for me to take, and the person before me took him because I think he'll probably have a pretty sizable role in that backfield.
Mhm. Yeah, and in Dynasty, you have the bench space to be able to do that without worrying about cannibalizing yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
yeah, that's kind of how I'm shaking it down for this year.
yeah, and I think getting Garrett Wilson in the third round, Bobby, that was good value. He's certainly one of these bounce back candidates, and maybe he has a quarterback who can actually throw the ball. What, what have they been saying? It's like the best quarterback that Garrett Wilson's played with or the best quarterback the Jets have had since Geno Smith is Geno Smith.
Geno Smith.
So,
Oh, poor Jets.
um,
That's I real long and hard at Brees Hall, by the way, at in the fourth round. Bear to have two Jets on my team.
yeah, that would be a
Couldn't do
lot.
it.
That's a lot to bear.
No.
Um, good value on Lamar Jackson in the fifth. Good value on Javonte Williams in the sixth. Like, I think you did a good job as well, Bobby, not getting too aggressive, sticking in picking, and that certainly allows you to have the picks necessary to backfill any of these guys that might age out, like a Christian McCaffrey or
Mhm.
Michael Pittman or whomever else. Like, there are a couple older guys, but you have at least you didn't mortgage the future to go and
I
get
did
certain players.
I did try to deliberately have a bit of a event as I was getting later rounds of the draft and look for, I took a couple of rookies in Boston who I'm high on as an athlete. I like the fit, and we talked about that on our rookie rankings, but I am still high on the athlete, and I think eventually in a dynasty situation, good athletes are good athletes, and they'll find their groove somewhere.
Yeah,
Um,
nothing
I
broke.
also in I'm sorry.
Yeah, nothing broke my. I think I was at your house when Denzel Boston was drafted to the Browns, and I just looked at you. I was like, man, Denzel Boston just got picked by the Browns because you and I were both. You were both so high on the guy as a potential first round pick. He makes it to the
The
early
air
second
just
round,
went out of the room when that happened.
and it's oh man, it's like, God damn it! Like, and we talked about this previously. Like, I'll just quickly intrude here. A lot of the rookies this year landed in such inopportune situations. It's like it's honestly a blessing that we're doing a startup draft, not just a rookie draft this season, because it'd be a fucking minefield. You don't want to deal with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead. Why don't I cue you up and just ask?
A pick I'd like to highlight of mine, if I can. I
Oh,
really like
yes.
getting. Oh, sorry.
Nope. Go
Um,
ahead. Keep running with it.
okay, well, I think we're having some internet issues again here.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm just gonna press forward. I really like getting Dallas Goddard where I got him in the 18th round. Um, I know everybody's high on the rookie that they just drafted and on a 1 year extension there, but he's on there and he's going to be there this year, and he's coming off of a career year for him. Uh, I can see him being stable piece in an offense that's seeing an amount of change in this offseason as well. So I like that pick, looking around where we were at in the draft. Not a lot of players in the later that are guys that you could flex. They're ones where you're hoping they work themselves into a position where they could be a flex starter or a starter. But Dallas Goddard, and tight ends can be in flex spots too. And there are absolutely occasions where, he's going to put up, in 10 receptions and a touchdown and be a very start. So I liked getting that value where I got it there.
Yeah, and to your point, he's there in Philadelphia where he just produced, and I think he's the kind of player that like when Jalen Hurts was targeting the middle of the field this past season, it was more often than not to Dallas Goddard. So there is some trust there, and especially as they try to not change Jalen Hurts in the way he plays, but they're certainly giving him the weapons and not giving him any excuses to not throw to the middle of the field now with your Eli Stowers, with your Mekhi Lemons, with your Dallas Goddards. There's no reason why these big successful targets in zone coverage can't get open in the middle of the field. So it's going to be on Jalen Hurts this season to stand in and deliver. I agree.
Yeah, that's those are the kind of main things that I wanted to talk about. Yeah,
Awesome, man.
and the future is the future, but the present is here and now. I like drafting for the present. That's why I picked CMC where I do. I like to try and get the that can you win you want and then go from there.
I was very interested to see where Christian McCaffrey would eventually land, and it's it's understandable in a dynasty startup that he would fall into that mid early second round, but I think he has just as much likelihood of finishing as RB1 again as any of the guys that went ahead of him. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, if you want to win now, he's a player that you go and get. So, yeah, uh, cannot argue. Sorry, cannot argue with that selection there. Awesome, guys. So, once again, appreciate your insight, your comments on the draft. Hopefully, this is, unless someone else pops up in our group chat and says they want on to the pod, this will be the last that we talk about our league and our draft. So,
I got a lot to say. I talk about.
I'm honestly surprised Matt or Greg haven't hopped on yet, and they're like, because they seemed pretty, they were very active in the draft, obviously. So, would have been nice to get their ideas, but that's okay. I feel like they shared them in the draft itself. Okay, so let's transition here to. We'll just power ahead here. But let's just transition into our kind of uh, the secondary portion of this podcast, which is the changing dynamics of the NFL and the fact that they seem to be moving towards these 2 and 3 tight end sets. We just saw an NFL draft where, for many many years, the second round was where you found your value wide receivers, you found your running backs, and those seem this year to have been pushed back a round or two because teams were so antsy on getting these big Y type tight ends. The Jacksonville Jaguars didn't even have a first round pick. The first pick they make, which was like the 58th pick or something, was like something Borkshire. And I think he had 38 catches in his entire 6 years of college, but he can block. So it's going to be interesting, and that kind of started a run of these big tight ends, and everybody was like, I think it was a record set for tight ends drafted this year. So, what does that mean? I guess it does seem like offenses are still trending towards getting bigger to go up against these smaller, faster defenses. We've already seen in the past season, and I think the last 2 seasons really, the shift from running backs kind of being an afterthought. They're not really getting paid. So the guys that are worth it are getting paid. Your CMCs, the Derrick Henrys, these guys, they were discarded junk from their previous team and they get picked up or traded for, and now they're producing at an all-time high. So I think running back scoring was up the past 2 seasons, each of the last 2 seasons, and I think as we lean more into these heavier sets, fewer wide receivers are going to be on this field. So that's the table set. Where do you guys want to go with that information I just provided?
One thing that is immediately kind of notable about all this, especially if you're thinking from a fantasies perspective, is just volatility, right? There is a lot more, potential stuff going on with your player who, you drafted and who you hope is going to pick up some points for you. With these different looks that offenses are throwing out there. It's not just, good team, good running back, take good running back from good team. Is this a pass catching running back who's going to be on the field and benefiting from these 2 tight end sets and the fact that there are fewer receivers on the field? Okay, now we're dumping off to the running back, right? What format is your league in? Is it PPR? Is it half PPR? Is your running back going to benefit more or less from that? It just makes things a lot more dynamic. And I love that personally. So I like that offense is trying this and we're trending towards something, new and different. And I eat that up. I love that all day, every day. So.
Okay. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. And I mean, last year we saw probably one of like the lowest injury rates among running backs. And that might like be because they're being more like typecast in a way. And the same may be true for tight ends. Like having the ability to have players specialize in things creates less of like a workload for each player. And as a result, maybe we see like injuries trend down generally, which would be cool. The flip side is there's like far less bell cow folks in any position. So I think, like, to your point, the dynamic kind of like rostering of these different specialty players can create really interesting like offensive looks and playbooks and stuff.
Yeah, so a couple good points there, guys. I like the idea there, Bobby, that pass catching is now a huge differentiator for these running backs, especially early on. You don't just want the workhorse three down, like the early thumper guy. Like you want the guy who's going to catch passes, and regardless of whether it's PPR, half PPR, or otherwise, a reception and the yards that come after that reception generally are more valuable than a single rush. Like you're going to
Mhm.
get more yards on a reception than you are on a rush, generally speaking. Um, I like the idea there that, especially, yeah, you want those pass catchers, and then I think the point of moving away from these 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, it creates um, fewer wide receivers that are actually rosterable. I think like
Mhm.
people start looking, and at least this was my strategy in this particular draft, is I wanted the receivers that I know are going to be on the field when the heavy tight ends come out, because you still need a receiver more often than not, unless you're going to go throw 4 tight ends or 3 tight ends and 2 running backs out there. Like, I don't think we're getting to that point yet, but I wanted receivers that weren't just slot guys.
Mhm.
I feel like that's a dying prototype.
Yeah, no, I super noticed that as we were getting towards the back. Again, like for anyone who's listening to this who's in a normal, like, 12 team redraft league, this doesn't apply as much to that. But we were getting to the, 30th round of a dynasty startup. Not a lot of wide receivers that were very exciting to be found anywhere. The pool dried up a lot quicker than I had expected it to, just from previous bias of previous startup drafts and what things were like 5 or 10 years ago around the league. So yeah, that was something that I was kind of shocked by, and I think this is all part of the same reasoning, the same logic.
Well, I don't think you have to go back even 5 years. Like, if you go back 2 years, that was the year I think CeeDee Lamb was going number 1 overall, and like the beginning of that draft was literally, I think the first 7 or 8 picks were all wide receivers, and then you
Mhm.
started looking at the running backs that would have been coming back, right? Like it's if you look at our draft in particular, the first round was almost an even split between running backs and wide receivers. Like, I think
Mhm.
there's an understanding that, especially after a year where wide receiver scoring was down, that running backs might be the new meta again. The new old meta is back, where
The
it's
pendulum has
like,
swung.
exactly. So I think that was interesting, and I think the other part here that I wanted to drive home was like, to your point, Boom, there aren't a lot of bell cow guys or difference makers on like specific teams. So if you can get one of those guys, it's incredibly valuable, because I think, like, if we look at my cousin Adrian's team, like, we all put him as number 1. He went with the old meta, and all 3 of us, we all praised him, inward included. All 4 of us, we all praised him for going Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Nico Collins. His first running back is Brees Hall
Yeah.
on a questionable Jets team, and I think he did a good job of getting Brees Hall, who just signed an extension. He was able to get David Montgomery in the 6th round, so he was able to kind of weather that storm. I don't think every team can say that, though.
Mhm. I still have him near the top, but I bumped him down a running back situation of his team.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely changed. It'll be interesting to see now going, as this always happens with these shifts, right? What do defenses do, and then how do offenses counter?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we just
because
saw,
we'll see that happen for sure.
yeah, we just saw the Seahawks operate out of heavy personnel and then throw out of heavy personnel to the tight ends, to JSN at a record-breaking clip. And I think there's a point there where, while tight ends might be being drafted by the NFL highly, I don't think there's like this urgency to get them the ball. Like, there are still the difference makers at tight end, the Brock Bowers, the Trey McBrides, the Colston Lovelands, Tyler Warrens. Like, I think you guys did a good job of nabbing these guys, Tucker Kraft, Harold Fannin. That was kind of the end of the difference maker tier. A lot of these other tight ends, they're kind of like the F type tight end, like the Kyle Pitts, the Eli Stowers, they're kind of going the way of the dinosaur, where if I have to create a package for you to get on the field, that's less valuable. Whereas the Trey McBrides, the Brock Bowers, Colston Lovelands, these guys are on the field for running situations. They're there for checkdowns, and they're also part of the passing game at a high level. So I'm not saying tight end is like, oh, there's a plentiful bounty of tight ends now. You can just wait and take one. I still think it's almost like the quarterback situation from a year or two ago, where they there's a top tier, and then you may as well wait.
Yeah,
Oh,
I generally
totally,
agree with
totally.
that.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I guess the final question I'll just put out there is, you know, with this conversation we've just had, are you going to consider, in future drafts, changing your philosophy of the value of a wide receiver? Because I kind of counted on that a little bit, because with taking Jameer Gibbs and then Josh Allen, I was kind of hoping that wide receiver would get pushed down by teams taking running backs a little bit earlier than expected, and I kind of felt like I was able to take advantage of that. Like, what do you feel like your game plan would be going into it? Like, I'm sure you're going to still do your school draft, Bobby. Like,
Mhm.
is this going to affect your strategy?
Yeah, honestly, it will. Now that is partially because my school league is this behemoth of a 16 team, mega league, right? So I think it'll play this dynasty startup, and I am going to definitely be targeting those every trying to, whether they be wide receivers, running backs, tight. I'm going to be looking for those players that can, more commonly utilized, right? And yeah, just thinking of strategies in that league, I think it's very vital. Have just a bare number of starting wide receivers. Get your guys when you can get them, but of filling in more with Rex and going from there, because
Yeah,
again, running backs in that pass catching role seeming to be incredibly bad right now.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Is like just understanding really well the tier breaks, because that's what I was looking at that third round turn there. Is like, if I don't take a receiver here, what am I going to be left with in another round's worth? Who am I comfortable being my wide receiver one if I decide to go into some of these more um, like rushing dependent positions, and running back and quarterback? Quarterbacks, I just heard this stat today, is like quarterbacks are rushing in more touchdowns than they are throwing in touchdowns when they get down to inside the 5 or inside the 10 at a better rate than ever. And it's because of the kind of quarterbacks the NFL is drafting. Like, think of that great draft we had 2 or 3 years ago now, with Drake May, um, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. Like, all those guys are putting up 6 to 7 rushing touchdowns on average, I would say, in a given season, and that's 6 or 7 touchdowns that are not being thrown to wide receivers or whomever else, right? Like, I feel like wide receiver is the. I guess at the end of the day, fantasy football, we want players who are going to score the most points, and I can't say for sure, outside of the absolute studs at wide receiver, that wide receiver is going to be those positions that are going to do that for you. I think is my
Yeah,
takeaway.
yeah. I love quarterbacks here because if I'm in a redraft league, more so than ever, I'm waiting on quarterback. There, it's been common wisdom to wait on quarterback. Um, it's going to be quarterbacks that fit that rush archetype that are available to you far later draft. And I
Yeah,
think that's definitely something to be mindful of. Your average, redraft league.
I mean, Melissa getting Jackson Dart in the 6th round, in especially with a dynasty startup. I think, generally speaking, you're right. Quarterbacks will still go a little bit later, but not as late as we've become used to. Any final comments? Boom.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the question you posed was about like how will this take, how will the information we learn from this dynasty take us into like our redraft leagues closer to the fall? For me, the way that I kind of see it is like I still think that the running back position might be a little overinflated right now just because of the lack of injuries last year. I think people have this idea that like no running backs are going to get injured, which is like simply not the case. Wide
Mm.
receivers like typically get injured less frequently. We had a few big ones last year, which is like hot in people's minds. But I think like, drafting a wide receiver that's top tier you can like depend on more readily for points. That said, you can also find more like hidden gems at wide receiver. I think where
Yeah.
guys like as long as they have a path to success, they often can become difference makers very quickly. Guys you take in the sixth, seventh round can easily become like top 30 guys. Versus running backs, you almost always need an injury for those guys to climb the depth chart for the most part. So I think like if you can get the workhorse running backs, go for it. Otherwise, like kind of those blue chip wide receivers can win you championships for sure.
Okay. Awesome. All right, guys. I thought that was good, insightful conversation. And obviously, we don't know all the interworkings of the NFL and how these teams are actually going to end up deploying these guys. It's a copycat league. Sean McVay, heck, I dare say Arthur Smith was ahead of this, 2 or 3 seasons ago when he was putting all these tight ends out there. Sean McVay has certainly weaponized it to a great extent, and everyone else has kind of followed suit. And just because they're drafting tight ends doesn't mean that they are going to know how to use them like a Sean McVay. So it's going to be interesting to see if people can stick to their guns or if they're going to try and follow the herd. All storylines that we will keep up with as the NFL season trots along. But that's going to do it for us this evening, everybody. I want to thank Chris Boomhauer for taking some time to hop on with us. It was really awesome having you on, man. Appreciate all your insight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime, happy to join.
Excellent. And Bobby, good to have you back. I know you couldn't make
Yeah,
last week, but
good to be back here again.
perfect. All right, guys, I'll let you go and get on with your evenings. If you haven't done so already and you're enjoying this kind of conversation, like and subscribe. We are 2 new subscribers over the last week on the podcast, so we're on that slow trot to 1 million subscribers.
Ooh,
Yeah,
at this rate, we'll be there in. Ooh, wait a minute, I don't want to do that math.
yeah. It's like I said, we do this for fun. Hope you're enjoying it, everybody. That's gonna do it for us. Peace.